from New Delhi. You're watching DD India NewsHour, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico out of danger after being shot multiple times. Government confirms it as a political assault. Indian Prime Minister expresses shock and strongly condemns the cowardly act. France declares a 12-day state of emergency in New Caledonia as riots continue over passage of voting reform. 4 people killed, hundreds arrested. Russian president holds talks with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping in Beijing. She says two nations have accumulated a solid baggage of practical cooperation. US President Joe Biden and his Republican rival Donald Trump are all set for debates, first in June and again in September. And India to host Bharat Parv at Cannes Film Festival for the first time. Official poster and trailer of the 55th International Film Festival of India to be unveiled today. Well, on to the details now. Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico is no longer in a life-threatening condition after he was shot in an assassination attempt. The gunman shot Fico 5 times, initially leaving the Prime Minister in critical condition and undergoing surgery hours later on Wednesday evening. The shooting occurred after Fico attended a government meeting in Handlova. Police said the 71-year-old shooter is in custody while the motive remains unclear so far. Officials said no one else was injured in the attack. Slovakia's Minister of Defense Robert Kalinek told a press conference that the shooting of Prime Minister Robert Fico was a political assault.
Thank you. Look, we're just talking about the level of democracy, about capability to understand each other, to accept the other opinion, and not only one is that good one. If somebody have a different opinion, it's also he have also his place on the earth and all in the political field. So this is the issue. What's happened? It's a political assault.
US President Joe Biden and Russian President Vladimir Putin joined Slovakia's EU partners in expressing shock and condemnation of the shooting. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen also condemned the assault. Fico was elected Prime Minister in October after running a campaign that criticized Western support for Ukraine. The European country is a member of NATO and the European Union and has little history of political violence. Also, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi expressed shock at the news of the shooting at Slovakia's Prime Minister Robert Fico. Taking to X, PM Modi said, "I strongly condemn this cowardly and dastardly act and wish PM Fico a speedy recovery. India stands in solidarity with the people of the Slovak Republic," unquote. And France declared a 12-day state of emergency in New Caledonia as deadly riots continue over electoral reforms. The decision to impose emergency was taken at a crisis meeting held by Prime Minister Gabriel Attal and Interior Minister Gerald Darmanin on Wednesday. The state of emergency will give authorities additional powers to ban gatherings and forbid people from moving around. The riots have claimed the lives of 3 young indigenous Kanak and a police official so far. 500 police officers were sent to the territory to reinforce current forces. Schools have been shut and there is already a curfew in the capital. Armed forces are also protecting Pacific Islands 2 airports. Rioting broke out over a new bill adopted by lawmakers in Paris on May 14th. It will allow French residents who have lived in New Caledonia for 10 years to vote in provincial elections, a move some local leaders fear will dilute the Kanak vote. And Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping held bilateral talks in Beijing on Thursday. According to media sources at the meeting, Xi said that the two nations have indeed accumulated a solid baggage of practical cooperation, while Putin said the cooperation between two sides stands as stabilizing factor for the world. Earlier, ahead of the visit, Putin praised Russia-China relations, saying that they have reached the highest level ever, despite the difficult global situation that continues to get stronger. Earlier, she rolled out the red carpet for Putin with a welcome ceremony held just after his arrival in Beijing. This marks Putin's first foreign visit after being sworn in for a 6-year presidential term that will keep him in power until at least 2030. And now Laura Westbrook joins us for more from Hong Kong on this. Well, Laura, old friends meet as Russia presses a new offensive on Ukraine's northeastern Kharkiv region. How do you see this visit, and what can we say about the timing of the visit, since China also proposed a genuine desire to end the war in Ukraine?
Yes, this is a symbolic as well as strategic visit by the Russian President Vladimir Putin. It's his first since his re-election and his second to China in just over 6 months. And they're both, China has really rolled out the red carpet for Putin. They've had this welcome ceremony outside the Great Hall of the People in Beijing, and they've also held talks. We've just, looking from state-run media, President Xi Jinping said that he told President Putin he's met him more than 40 times and emphasized that maintaining close communication and strategic guidance was key to maintaining this healthy bilateral relationship between the two. And we're going to see later on the two go for a walk outside, the Forbidden City. There will be a gala dinner held tonight, and President Putin is bringing with him his defense minister and his foreign minister, as well as quite a significant trade delegation. So on the cards for discussions will be trade, finance, but also, as you mentioned, the war in Ukraine. Russia will be looking for China to support its efforts in Ukraine. As well as sustaining its economy. But China really is growing under quite significant pressure from the West. We just had the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen both visiting China ahead of Putin's visit, and they really pressed China to stop exports to Russia that aids its war efforts in Ukraine. So what people will be watching to see if this diplomatic pressure has any impact on those talks between those two leaders.
All right, most important there. Also, as you mentioned, Laura, Putin will also travel to the northeastern city of Harbin for a trade and investment exposition. What all can we expect from that visit?
Yes, so we are, the city of Harbin is a city with significant ties to Russia, and Russia has really benefited from this relationship with China since that invasion of Ukraine in 2022. They declared that no limits partnership, and we've seen exports and trade between the two countries rise. Trade rose to around $240 billion in 2023. China has also benefited from the relationship in terms of getting natural gas and natural resources from Russia. So analysts I spoke to said they will be watching to see if that there are any MOUs signed between the two countries, any further trade deals signed when it comes to perhaps the Siberian pipeline and economic and financial issues.
All right. Thank you so much, Laura, for that update from Hong Kong. And moving on, higher stakes movements yet of the race for the White House are now decided. U.S. President Joe Biden and Republican rival Donald Trump agreed on Wednesday to debate each other twice, first on June 27th and again on the 10th of September. This comes after a rapid back and forth between their campaigns and a flurry of taunts and insults from the candidates. For months, it had been unclear whether Biden and Trump would even square off in a debate before the November election. And in a social media post, Joe Biden called on his opponent Donald Trump to join him for presidential debates, saying that Trump had lost 2 debates to him in the year 2020. Trump also accepted the offer via a post on social media, asserting that Biden was the worst debater he had ever faced, who cannot put 2 sentences together.
Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. And since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
Well, Donald Trump's ex-lawyer is back on the stand on Thursday in the former U.S. president's historic hush money trial. Cross-examination of Michael Cohen by the defense is expected to continue after getting off to a fiery start on Tuesday. Trump is accused of falsifying business records in the lead-up to the 2016 presidential elections. He has pleaded not guilty and calls the trial election interference. DD India's Sally Patterson has more on this. Take a look.
Michael Cohen's testimony could make or break this case for the prosecution. Donald Trump's hush money trial is taking place here in New York City, and the key witness is halfway through his testimony. Cohen was one time Trump's lawyer and fixer and is at the very heart of this case. He is the one who paid Stormy Daniels, an adult film star, $130,000 in order to keep her quiet about an affair she said she had with Trump 10 years before the payment allegedly took place in 2016, just before Americans headed to the polls for the presidential election. Now, Daniels says that that payment was made to try and stop her speaking out about that alleged affair, which Trump denies ever happened. Then what's being looked at here by the prosecution is whether or not Donald Trump knew and approved that payment and how he then filed it. The prosecution alleges that Trump filed it as legal expenses, something they say is in fact illegal and was an attempt to try and suppress negative information ahead of the election and keep it from the American people before they voted on their next president. Michael Cohen has spent several days now speaking about his relationship with Donald Trump, the relationship he says that they had. He says that he once called Trump's family his surrogate family, but he says he used to lie on behalf of his boss in order to try and protect him. In fact, he said, "I regret doing things for him that I should not have. I violated my moral compass." That's what he told the jury when speaking about the lies he said he made on behalf of his former boss. Donald Trump has continued to call the whole case a witch hunt, saying that this is a ploy by his political opponents to try and keep him out of the White House. We also heard from his Republican allies speaking outside of court, who said that this was really an effort to keep Trump off of the campaign trail and inside a courtroom instead. Sally Patterson in New York reporting for DD India.
And still to come, DD India NewsHour. Ukrainian President Zelensky delays travel amid deteriorating situation in Kharkiv region. Russian forces capture 2 more settlements in Kharkiv's outskirts. Military leaders of NATO meet in Brussels. Israeli military calls for investigation after releasing videos showing armed men at UN facility in Gaza while fighting in Gaza intensifies. Hamas says Israeli amendments on ceasefire proposal led to deadlock. And Netherlands is all set to have the most right-wing government in the country in decades.
As India decides in the world's largest election,
we help you feel the pulse of the nation.
I am Sakal Bhatt.
I am Shubhendu Ghosh.
This election season, join us on a journey of India.
We are in Assam. This is the tea city of India.
From down south, Tamil Nadu.
Discover the colors of democracy.
Gateway to northeast of India.
Coastal state of Kerala. Watch Poll Pulse on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lepakshi Kuran, and moving on, the Israeli military is calling on the United Nations to investigate the presence of armed terrorists at a UN facility in southern Gaza. The call for probe came after it released a drone footage filmed on May 11th showing armed men at the facility. UNRWA, the main UN agency operating in Gaza, said it is unable to verify the authenticity or the content of the video, but said it is likely that the video shows an UNRWA warehouse that was evacuated last week. Meanwhile, UNRWA has condemned the use of UN facilities by any party to the conflict for military or fighting purposes. It also reiterated call on all parties to the conflict to respect the sanctity and neutrality of UN installations. Well, fighting between Israel and Hamas has intensified in Gaza after Israel launched precise operations in eastern Rafah, asserting that there were hostages still held by Hamas in the area. Meanwhile, the ongoing ceasefire negotiations in Gaza reached a deadlock on Wednesday after Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh rejected Israel's demand on excluding the terror group in the post-conflict settlement in Gaza. And earlier, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu asserted that eliminating Hamas in the Gaza Strip was necessary for any alternative Palestinian governance there.
Eliminating Hamas is an essential step in order to ensure that on the day after, there will be no element in Gaza that can threaten us. Until it is clear that Hamas does not control Gaza militarily, nobody will be prepared to take upon himself the civil management of Gaza out of fear for their lives. Therefore, all the talk about the day after, while Hamas remains intact, will remain mere words devoid of content.
Well, the 22-member Arab League is hoping to agree on how to end the conflict between Hamas and Israel at a summit in Bahrain on Thursday. Confidence is high that a meaningful plan with all members in agreement will be the outcome. Stuart Smith reports for more from Baghdad in Iraq.
The task these leaders have set themselves is huge, but unusually for the question of Palestine-Israel relations, all members from Saudi Arabia to Syria are reportedly on board. Officials say a concrete timetable for a ceasefire in Gaza will be proposed, as well as an initiative to rebuild the Gaza Strip, Rafah and other areas affected by the war. A peace conference will be planned, one which Bahrain will lead as the country's hosting this year's summit. Over the next few months, it would push for Palestine to be recognized as a state, perhaps in return for all Arab nations recognizing Israel as a state for the first time too. That would come with the condition that Hamas be stripped of all authority in Gaza and governance there handed over to the Palestinian Authority, with Hamas to blame for initiating the attack against Israel last October. Unlike in previous years and at previous peace conferences, there is optimism such a proposal will make progress after 143 members of the United Nations voted that Palestine should be granted full membership privileges. Objections from Israel and the US are likely to remain, but leaders hope a united Arab League will ramp up the pressure on them to soften their positions. Representatives will also discuss Iran-Israel relations, the crises in Libya, Yemen and Syria, the conflict in Sudan and a border dispute between Djibouti and Eritrea. Stuart Smith in Baghdad, reporting for DD India.
Well, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky postponed all his foreign trips as Ukraine's battlefield situation continued to deteriorate on Wednesday, and Kyiv said fighting raged in the northeastern border town of Vovchansk in Kharkiv region. The capture of the town, 5 kilometers from the border, would be Russia's most significant gain since the war began. A late-night report issued by Ukraine's General Staff said its troops had repelled 4 Russian attacks along the border, but fighting was raging near a string of villages. Troops continue to carry out stabilizing moves near Vovchansk. The report said heavy fire had prompted the military to reposition some troops near Kupiansk to the southeast, an area that has seen heavy fighting in recent months. And Russian forces have taken control of 2 more settlements in Ukraine's northeast Kharkiv region and one in the southern Zaporizhia region, the Defense Ministry said on Wednesday, building on a run of the incremental gains that have alarmed Kyiv. The Defense Ministry said in a statement that units from Russia's North military grouping had captured the settlements of Hilebok and Lukyantsy in the Kharkiv region. The ministry spoke of heavy fighting in other parts of Kharkiv region too, where it said Russian forces had repelled 3 Ukrainian counter-attacks. The Ukrainian military said late on Tuesday that Ukrainian troops had pulled back to more advantageous positions in 2 areas of the Kharkiv region. Well, the military leaders of NATO will meet in Brussels to discuss the defense of the alliance and support for Ukraine. This comes as Russian invaders continue to advance towards Ukraine's second largest city of Kharkiv. Alex Kadia reports for more from Brussels.
Well, a big focus for this meeting of NATO's military committee will, of course, be Ukraine. We know that Russian invading forces are moving closer to the second largest city in Ukraine, in Kharkiv. We know that Ukrainian forces have been able to push back some of that Russian advance in some of the neighboring villages, but it will be a real concern. We also know that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has cancelled several international trips, including one to Spain and possibly one to here in Belgium, very much concerned with the situation in his country. And that will be the case for those NATO military leaders, the more than 30 members of the NATO alliance gathering, those top military commanders coordinating their efforts both for the defense of the alliance but also for support for Ukraine. We know that has been a top priority for Secretary General and for Rob Bauer, the chair of NATO's military commander as well. And we know the United States announcing just in the last couple of days an extra $2 billion in military support for Ukraine, certainly a much needed boost. We know the Ukrainians have also said they need more equipment to push back this Russian advance. Now, as I mentioned, the defense of the NATO alliance will also be a really important topic discussed by these military leaders here in Brussels. We know that as a defensive alliance, it is now renewing what it calls its regional plans, its plans for the defense of Europe should there be an attack on this continent. That will be discussed all in the run-up to a summit of NATO leaders in Washington, D.C. in July. But in the short term, the focus remains very squarely on Ukraine. Alex Cadier in Brussels reporting for DD India.
All right, and now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has congratulated Lawrence Wong on assuming office as Prime Minister of Singapore. Taking to X, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that he looked forward to working closely with him to further advance strategic partnership between India and Singapore. Wong was sworn in as the 4th Prime Minister of the Singapore on Wednesday, becoming the country's new premier in 20 years. William Lai Ching-te will take office as Taiwan's president on the 20th of May. He faces China that calls him a dangerous separatist, as well as a fractured parliament at home where no party has a majority. Lai has offered talks with China many times, including this week, which Beijing has rebuffed. He was the country's vice president for the past 4 years and will succeed President Tsai Ing-wen. Netherlands is set to have the most right-wing government in the country in decades, almost 6 months after a major election victory. Dutch nationalist Geert Wilders said a deal has been reached between 4 parties to form the government. Wilders had forfeited the position of Prime Minister to get the parties to the negotiating table after his upset election victory on the 22nd of November. Off the shore of Phuket, Thai scientists waved goodbye from boats at sea as nearly a dozen leatherback baby turtles were released into the vast blue Indian Ocean, each equipped with a tiny satellite tag on its back. Their release marked a milestone for Thailand, making it one of only 5 countries in the world that have successfully reared newly hatched leatherback turtles in captivity for over a year. All the ruins of the Buddhist stupa dating back more than 2,000 years ago were found in Visakhapatnam by the Indian Navy during an aerial survey in 1976. After excavations in the decade that followed, a large Hinayana Buddhist complex was unearthed. Close to the shore of Visakhapatnam, it played a key role in the spread of Buddhism to Sri Lanka and Southeast Asia in the 400 years of its existence. This report takes us on a journey back in time. Take a look.
Totlakonda, on a hill overlooking the coast of Visakhapatnam, offers a fascinating glimpse into the ancient history of Buddhism and maritime trade in the region. Its location suggests its involvement in trade and missions to spread Buddhism to Sri Lanka, Southeast Asia and other parts of the world. The Indian Navy came across the ancient ruins during an aerial survey in 1976. Subsequent excavations unearthed this Hinayana Buddhist complex. This tank served as a water source for the monks and visitors. The presence of a conference hall with numerous pillars suggests that Totlakonda was not just a place for solitary meditation, but a center for intellectual exchange and religious discourse. Terracotta tiles, sculptured panels, inscriptions in the Dhamma script carbon date to the 2nd century before the Common Era. The discovery of Roman silver coins also indicates the extent of its connections with distant civilizations. It appears the hill was called Senagiri back in its time. Sena in Pali means elder, superior. The stupas served as guiding landmarks for ships. Totlakonda might have accommodated more than 100 monks and followers at a time. Its peak activity was between the 2nd century BCE and the 2nd century CE. Circles are deeply symbolic in Buddhism, showing Dharma Chakra, or the wheel of law. Totlakonda declined by the end of the 3rd century CE, a reminder of the ebb and flow of civilizations and the value of heritage.
And still to come in DD India NewsHour. As the phase 5 of Indian general election approaches, all political parties intensify campaigning. Rescue operation still continues at the hoarding collapse accident site in Mumbai. And rains will lash India's Tamil Nadu after scorching heat, a yellow alert issued.
Deep poll pulse has reached Lucknow, capital of India's most populous and politically significant state, poll-bound Uttar Pradesh. 80 crucial parliamentary constituencies spread over 7 phases.
यूपी तो कम से कम 80% बदल गया है।
मतदान हमारे देश के लिए बहुत हितकर है, क्योंकि हम मतदान नहीं करेंगे तो सही नेता को हम जज नहीं कर पाएंगे कौन है।
सर, मेरे युवाओं से कहना है जो पहली बार मतदान कर रहे हैं, पहले मतदान करें फिर जलपान करें।
मतदान करें ताकि अच्छी सरकार का गठन हो सके।
हम चाहते हैं बदलाव हो, तो एजुकेशन की तरफ, गरीबी की तरफ, बेरोजगारी की तरफ।
मतदान करना इसलिए जरूरी है क्योंकि हमें देश के भविष्य को बनाना है।
The Bharatiya Janata Party has seen the dominance in the last 2 editions of the Lok Sabha polls, while the opposition, particularly the regional war houses, are desperate to bounce back to power.
We are in Cannes, the famous city on the French Riviera. The 77th edition of the Cannes Film Festival is here. So soak into 12 days of world cinema and the hottest fashion trends. The famous 24 steps leading to the Palais des Festivals, where most of the cinema at this festival is screened, are beckoning. Join me, Munmun Bhattacharya, as I take you through all the buzz around the festival and on India's participation in it, only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lepak Shikuran, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico out of danger after being shot multiple times. Government confirms it as a political assault. Indian Prime Minister expresses shock and strongly condemns the cowardly act. France declares a 12-day state of emergency in New Caledonia as riots continue over passenger voting reform. 4 people killed, hundreds arrested. Russian president holds talks with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping in Beijing. She says two nations have accumulated a solid baggage of practical cooperation. US President Joe Biden and his Republican rival Donald Trump are all set for debates, first in June and again in September. And India to host Bharat Parva at Cannes Film Festival for the first time. Official poster and trailer of the 55th International Film Festival of India to be unveiled today. And now let's get you the latest in the world's largest democratic election in India. While campaigning continues in full swing for the last three phases of India's ongoing elections, voting for the fifth phase to be held on the 20th of May across 49 constituencies in 6 states and 2 union territories. Senior BJP leader and Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be holding several rallies in Uttar Pradesh today. PM Modi will campaign in Lalganj, Jaunpur, Bhadohi and Pratapgarh. BJP leader and Union Home Minister Amit Shah will be addressing rallies in Bihar, Sitamarhi and Madhubani. While BJP National President JP Nadda is slated to hold a roadshow in Bhubaneswar, he will hold public meetings in Odisha on Thursday. Also, top leaders of opposition parties are holding rallies across the country to woo the voters. Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge will address a press conference in Odisha. He will also attend a public meeting in Fulbani. Congress General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi Vadra will campaign for his brother and party leader Rahul Gandhi in Uttar Pradesh's Rai Bareli. Aam Aadmi Party Supremo and Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal is in Uttar Pradesh's Lucknow, where he held a joint press conference with Samajwadi Party Chief Akhilesh Yadav. And now for more, Debyendu Mondal joins us from Bengal in West Bengal for elections. Well, Debyendu, phase 5 of Lok Sabha elections in West Bengal encompasses about 7 parliamentary constituencies, each with a unique blend of culture, language, socio-economic background. What all issues can shape the political trajectory of the state?
Well, very good morning, Lipakshi. Of course, yes, this is there are crucial 7 seats that are going to polls in this particular phase of the elections here in West Bengal. You know, of course, as you rightly said, there are multitude of issues that are going to shape the elections here in this particular 7 seats. Where I am currently is the center of the Mathua community, for whom the Citizenship Amendment Act had been brought in the Indian Parliament in 2019 and which was notified in 2024. This is the Bangaon Lok Sabha constituency, which had been with the BJP ever since the 2019 Lok Sabha elections. The BJP also won from this particular seat in the 2021 assembly elections here in West Bengal. 6 out of 7 seats the BJP won from here. So of course, you know, this is an interesting seat where the BJP is hoping to make a landslide victory from this particular seat. The BJP's Shantanu Thakur, who is himself a Mathua leader, is contesting from this particular constituency, whereas the Trinamool Congress have fielded BJP turned TMC leader Vishwajit Das from this particular constituency. Apart from that, the Hooghly and Howrah constituency will also see an interesting fight in this particular phase. I was in Hooghly yesterday, where the BJP's Locket Chatterjee is contesting elections against her contemporary actor, Rachana Banerjee of the TMC. In the Hooghly district, of course, issues of non-industrialization is, of course, a very important and pertinent key issue there. Because of the fact, if you remember, Lipakshi, Singur, the Tata Nano plant in Singur was a significant development in the political history of Bengal, and it was responsible for the Mamata Banerjee government coming to power in 2011. So of course, the people there now say that they regret about the fact that they did not let the Tata plant come in. Politics over industrialization and land had shaped the political landscape there, in particularly in Hooghly and Howrah Lok Sabha constituency in Bengal. There are other cultural. I also sent a report yesterday about a particular sweet which is very predominant in Bengal. So of course, these are multitude of issues that are going to shape the electoral politics here in Bengal in this particular phase of elections here, in the fifth phase of elections here in Bengal. Back to you.
Right. Thank you so much, Devendu, for all that update from there. And moving on, in India's general elections 2024, a unique initiative by the Election Commission is being liked very much by the people. Election Commission has launched a vote from home facility for voters above 85 years of age. The elderly voters of Sopore are also very happy with the facility of home voting. DD India's Rama Tyagi reports for more.
101 years of Ghulam Rashid of Sitpura village of Sopore is a happy man. That's because the polling team visited his home to enable him cast his vote there itself. He has participated in voting after a long time. Expressing his gratitude, he is now motivating everyone to exercise their franchise.
The steps that have been taken by the administration for voting are really good. In my time, decades ago, these facilities were not available. I voted for a candidate who would think about the good of our people and their rights.
Election Commission has made a welcome initiative of home voting, extending vote from home facility for voters above 85 years of age and persons with disabilities. In Baramulla, the scheme has helped 449 registered voters to do polling without visiting the booths.
We made special arrangements. Especially, we have a contingency plan in place in case of any violations of ceasefire. Apart from that, especially these areas are tough to reach because the areas have difficult terrain. So in case of rain, we have made alternate plans whereby the polling parties will reach the polling stations. We'll use the JCBs to clear the roads.
The Election Commission team has taken an extensive door-to-door campaign to explain the entire process to the eligible people. Ghulam Muhammad War and Khatija Begum of Sopore are also happy they have cast their vote after 15 years.
My last vote was 15 years ago in 2008. I couldn't vote because of my ill health, but now because of the home voting system, I can exercise my right and no vote will go to waste.
Earlier people were not satisfied. The people who were voted in, they never did anything for the poor. That's why people did not vote. But now people are going out to vote.
Sopore, called the Apple Town, has a turbulent history and has been associated with terror attacks and stone pelting. But the electoral exercise has given extended promise of democracy and voting to the people. Rama Tyagi reports for DD India.
And in the fifth phase of India's great democratic election, Ladakh's lone parliamentary seat goes to poll to the 20th of May. It has a unique landscape and rare flora and fauna which attracts tourists in large numbers from home and abroad. There are concerns among Ladakhis about it going to unsustainable levels, but eco-friendly solutions are also being put in place. Voters want sustainable practices to be the way forward in taking Ladakh's tourism to newer heights. DD India's Gautam Roy reports from Leh.
Ladakh, a land of majestic snowy mountains and awe-inspiring landscapes with rivers, valleys, high mountain passes and unique flora and fauna. Estimates say Ladakh drew around 600,000 tourists last year, but its population is barely half that number. It creates tremendous pressure on Ladakh's scarce resources ranging from water, vegetation, animals, birds and grasslands. Traffic jams have become commonplace in tourism hubs like Leh and other tourist destinations in Ladakh. Some tourists and establishments hosting them also don't behave responsibly, respecting the environment, which causes concern among Ladakhis.
There should be a responsible tourist. They're throwing garbage everywhere, and then at the same time they're playing with the life of the animal also.
Ladakh has a wide variety of rare animals and birds like the snow leopard and unique vegetation like grasslands and wetlands, which is sensitive to intrusion by tourists. Conservationists have been seeking some form of regulation of entry of tourists in Ladakh.
We, to regulate the number of tourists, would be starting some sort of portal where people can register if they want to visit Ladakh, and there should be a cap to the number of people visiting Ladakh. And that's the only way we can regulate, otherwise it's very difficult.
But there's a flip side to the story as well, where resorts, hotels and restaurants have been built in Ladakh in the sustainable mode, using local materials and techniques which have eco-friendly practices like no single-use plastic and no changing of linen daily. Tourists appreciate the effort and stakeholders also take pride in respecting their surroundings.
I do think it's very sustainable because of the practices that I've seen them, including the mud plaster that they've built. It's rammed earth, which is like literally built from the earth where where the soil is, where the property is. Also, they have a lot of these no to plastic and don't change your towels and things like that. So it's nice.
Ladakh is a rare gem of nature which sits on top of India's map like a crown, and efforts are being made to ensure that it keeps enticing tourists from all over the world.
Be it tourism or development, sustainability is the way forward, particularly for an eco-sensitive zone like Ladakh. Eco-tourism is something that the people here want, an agenda that should be pushed by their chosen representatives when they get to Delhi in election season. With Person Naveen Kumar Jha, Gautam Roy, Leh, DD India.
And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. The death toll in Mumbai hoarding collapse rose to 16 on Wednesday as the National Disaster Response Force recovered 2 more bodies from a car stuck at the accident site. Rescue operation still continues. The hoarding collapsed due to a sudden dust storm and heavy rain that hit Mumbai, Maharashtra's capital city. South India's Tamil Nadu got some respite from scorching heat as rain slashed the city on Wednesday. The regional meteorological department has issued a yellow alert for the next 5 days for several districts in the state. India's Ministry of Home Affairs on Wednesday handed over citizenship certificates to 14 people under the Citizenship Amendment Act. Union Home Secretary Ajay Kumar Bhalla handed over citizenship certificates to some applicants in capital New Delhi. Devotees in the Indian city of Mathura gathered to celebrate the Nauka Vihar festival. This festival is connected to the pastimes of Hindu deities Krishna and Radha, who along with their friends would enjoy
a day with lot of interactive sessions and a productive sessions followed by our closing of India's culture.
All right, it's all eyes on Bharat Parv, of course. Thank you so much for joining us, Shyam, and giving us that update. And now you're watching DD India NewsHour. Time now for some sports news. Juventus beat Atalanta 1-0 to win a record extending 15th Coppa Italia on Wednesday as an early strike by Dusan Vlahovic earned the club their first trophy in 3 years. The club also holds the record for most Italian Cup finals played and won. However, they had not lifted any silverware since they won the competition in 2020-21, where they also beat Atlanta in the final. Meanwhile, Juventus coach Massimiliano Allegri became the first coach to win the Coppa Italia 5 times after Sven-Goran Eriksson and Roberto Mancini lifted the trophy on 4 occasions. Reigning Olympic and world champion Neeraj Chopra bagged gold medal at the 27th Federation Cup Senior Athletics Championship in Bhubaneswar on Wednesday. The star javelin thrower registered a big best throw of 82.27 meters on his 4th attempt to claim the top honor. DP Manu, who remained at the pole position till round 3 with a best throw of 82.06 meters, failed to overtake Neeraj later in the competition. The star player marked his return in the Federation Cup after 3 years as he took the field at the Kalinga Stadium. During his last appearance at the event, Neeraj had pulled off a throw of 87.80 meter to win gold in 2021. And India's football icon Sunil Chhetri announced on Thursday that he will retire from international football after the FIFA World Cup qualification match against Kuwait on June 6th. The national football team captain announced his decision via a video he posted on his social media account. As of now, Chhetri stands tall with third most international goals among the currently active players, behind Argentine legend Lionel Messi and leader Cristiano Ronaldo. Going into Chhetri's last international outing next month, India are currently second in Group A of FIFA World Cup qualifiers with 4 points behind leading Qatar. Kuwait are fourth with 3 points. And Punjab Kings skipper Sam Curran starred with 63 as they defeated the already qualified Rajasthan Royals by 5 wickets at the Barsapara Cricket Stadium in Guwahati on Wednesday. Avesh Khan and Yuzvendra Chahal picked 2 wickets apiece but failed to win the game for their side. Earlier, Riyan Parag's fighting knock-off 48 of 34 steered PRR to 144 for 9 in 20 overs after the side opted to bat first. Chasing a modest target of 145 on a tricky surface, BBKS reached home in 18.5 overs. Sam Curran, Rahul Chahar and Harshal Patel all picked 2 wickets each. Well, dengue is a mosquito-borne viral infection endemic to over 100 countries in the world. Every year, National Dengue Day is observed to spread awareness about the disease. The theme for this year is Dengue Prevention, Our Responsibility for a Safer Tomorrow. Take a report.
Dengue is a viral infection that spreads from mosquitoes to people. The virus is transmitted to humans through the bites of infected female mosquitoes, primarily the Aedes aegypti mosquito. Most people who get dengue will not have symptoms, but for those who do, the most common symptoms are high fever, headache, body aches, nausea and rash. Most will get better in 1 to 2 weeks. Some people develop severe dengue and need care in a hospital.
आज राष्ट्रीय डेंगू दिवस है। डेंगू मच्छर काटने की वजह से होता है। एक एडिस मच्छर होता है जो कि हमारे घर के एनवायरनमेंट में जहाँ भी कोई पानी इकट्ठा रहता है, जैसे किसी पोट में या कोई टायर में या नारियल के किसी खोल में, फ्रिज के नीचे वाली ट्रे में, और जो आपके बाथरूम में कई बार पानी इकट्ठा होता है, उसमें आमतौर पे ये मच्छर अंडे देता है, वहाँ पे लार्वा पैदा होता है और उससे मच्छर पैदा हो जाता है।
Some patients with dengue fever go on to develop dengue hemorrhagic fever. It is a life-threatening disease that can cause bleeding under the skin, in internal organs, or from body openings. It reduces the body's ability to function on its own. There is no specific treatment for dengue. Most cases of dengue fever can be treated at home with pain medicine. For people with severe dengue, hospitalization is often needed. Today, on Dengue Day, let's take a pledge to start conversations regarding the disease and speak of the treatment facilities available that can help in eradicating the disease. With inputs from Kiran Bhardwaj, Bureau Report, DD India.
All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.